Hi, for the last couple of months, I've been reading a very interesting book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Frere, a Brazilian philosopher. And this book is very interesting, so I wanted to give just a snapshot of what I've read so far about it. Of course, it's a foundational text in critical pedagogy, and this is a field of education theory that critiques traditional education systems and advocates for a more participatory democratic approach to teaching and learning. In this book, as you will read if you get it, Frere argues that traditional systems often perpetuates oppression by treating students as passive recipients of knowledge rather than active participants in a teaching learning process. So he coins the term banking education to describe this model where teachers deposit knowledge into the students' minds, and the students are expected to memorize and repeat it without critical engagement. Of course, this reminds us about the banking concept of knowledge, where teachers are like going to the bank to deposit money, and the best the students can withdraw is what was deposited by the teacher, and that is the banking concept. So the students regurgitate, it more or less promotes rote learning. It's a very interesting component of teaching learning, and Frere in this book proposes what I would call an alternative model of education, which he calls problem posing approach, where students are co-creators, are considered as co-creators, as equal partners in the teaching learning process. So there are about 4 or 5 concepts that Frere talks about and promotes in these texts. The first one is what I would call conscientization, and this, I think, is where he emphasizes the importance of developing critical consciousness in the teaching learning process among both educators and learners. Now, critical consciousness or conscientization involves recognizing and questioning the oppressive structures that we may have in our communities. And, it questions the power dynamics that exist in society. It enables individuals to understand their own social and political reality and to take action that kind of, transforms it. The second concept that I got in this book is what I would call dialogic and practice. And when you talk about dialogic, it's a situation where both the teachers or educators and learners engage in constructive dialogue, where they create a trusted space where both teachers and learners feel mutual trust between themselves, and where teachers and students can engage in mutual dialogue and then reflection. So when you talk about praxis, this is where you reflect and take action. It's just not mere reflection, but it's reflection that aims at taking action. Of course, this approach sharply contrasts with the traditional banking model of education that I've talked about, where knowledge is simply deposited in the minds of passive learners or passive students. And so we need both dialogue and critical praxis so that we, talk about our challenges, but also reflect on our role in it and our ability to take action that could help change the status quo. So through dialogue and praxis, learners become active participants in their own learning process, and they can critically analyze their experiences and the world around them. The third concept in this book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, will be problem posing education. And the problem posing is the exact alternate to banking concept. And I think problem posing is what I will call now today problem-based learning or experiential learning, where learners are, the educators are just the guide on the side, as opposed to being the sage on stage. And so the learners become really, really very involved in their learning. Now, talking of this, the learners themselves in the problem posing approach tend to encourage critical examination of their own realities and then posing questions about the world. Rather than being passive recipients of knowledge as we saw in the banking model. In this case, the students become co-creators of knowledge, actively engaging with the materials and concentrating in their own lived experiences and how they can make it better. The fourth aspect of this book is what I would call laboratory praxis. Laboratory praxis is where you engage in laboratory practices as an educator. You ensure that you awaken the students' consciousness. And you, as an educator, you try and, you should not just aim at imparting knowledge, but also empowering these learners to become agents of change in their own communities where they live. And so the laboratory praxis involves both reflection and action as the learners critically analyze the situation and the reality and work towards transformative change, causing transformative change in their communities. And this, of course, leads us to the last aspect, which I will call education for liberation. And Frere sees education as a tool for critical liberation from oppression, from oppressive structures. And so he argues that oppressive systems maintain their power systems and power imbalance by keeping people ignorant and passive. And therefore, education must strive to empower individuals to critically engage with and challenge the oppressive systems and structures around them, ultimately leading to greater social justice and equality. I think it's one of the best books that you can ever read, and I want to encourage each and everyone to lay a hand on it. And overall, this book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, encourages educators to adopt a more participatory, dialogical, liberatory approach to education with the ultimate aim of empowering learners to become critical thinkers and agents of social change in their own lived communities. Thank you, and see you in the next book.